So apparently Yoshikiri is coming up next, meaning that Neo Vision So is going to be pushed back. That's so devastating. Alright, jokes aside, let's talk about the upcoming banner. Yoshikiri will be the main focus. I'm surprised to find out that he's a supporter. Perhaps I was too hasty judging his appearance, though I really believed he'd be a damage dealer or a tank. His Brave Shift apparently turns him into a magic damage dealer though. According to some other person, he has, quote, really good ice and water based support abilities, and he's going to be very flexible in different situations as well as provide some, like, killer damage against humans and machines as well. So, he's a very interesting amalgamation of very different things in FFBE. Unfortunately, we don't know the specific numbers at the moment. Now, currently, we don't have anyone that boosts your team's water or ice damage, so it's entirely possible that the numbers aren't going to be too impressive in the end. After all, anything's better than zero. Additional killer damage against humans and machines is pretty neat, especially since there aren't many characters that can spread a human killer for your team. Of course, not including any shenanigans involving Mastermind Zon. His Trustmaster reward is a throwing weapon that heavily boosts your unit spirit stat. Though, when you think about it further, there aren't that many spirit-oriented units that can use a throwing weapon to begin with. Also, I don't think we have anything that lets our units equip a throwing weapon either, so this really feels like a Yoshikiri only weapon at the moment. His Super Trustmaster reward provides a lot more variety by virtue of being a materia. It boosts your unit spirit stat by 80% and boosts it further if they're holding a single weapon. Personally, I value elemental resistance over spirit and Super Trustmaster rewards, but don't let that fool you into thinking that this Super Trustmaster reward is garbage. I may as well talk about his vision card. It's called Virtual Training, which apparently depicts this ninja being a hikikomori. Anyways, it boosts your unit spirit and can grant both status ailment nullification. That's pretty decent. Onto his abilities. His first one is a cooldown called, what do you know? Hikikomori. It activates a barrier, provides resistance against breaks, and nullifies Stop and Charm for all allies. It also activates an ability called Wombo Combo for Yoshikiri. Yeah, screw this. You know what? This is a character you have to get just for the name themselves. Alright, now that we've defined Yoshikiri as an unskippable unit, let's go over the next one. Itachi is a regular 7-star unit who can apparently use a quadruple cast. This already puts her ahead of Yoshikiri, as Wombo Combo apparently activates a triple cast. We don't know the numbers or turn durations yet, but I think it's safe to assume that they'll last long enough for the cooldown to expire. Otherwise, Yoshikiri would be a pretty disappointing Neo Vision. One interesting note, this cooldown ability is also a Brave ability, meaning it requires upgrades. This is just my own thinking. I think the barrier health will be increased with every upgrade, which, depending on the numbers, will determine if it's worth the grind or not. Speaking of Yoshikiri, his second cooldown ability is Ninpo, Banshin, which lets him evade 5 attacks, lets your team evade 2 attacks, boosts all their stats, and grants a team-wide resistance to breaks. Unfortunately, the evasion looks like it'll last 1 turn in most instances, and since this ability is on a 5-turn cooldown, you'd have to think before you use it. And we don't even get to see any active abilities before he transforms. As I've mentioned, his Brave Shift apparently turns him into a magic damage dealer. Ice Grow is a Boating Strike chaining ability that makes Awakened Dragon Axstar's single team contribution redundant. It's basically the ultimate ice support. And it chains. Of course, we don't know the numbers, which will really determine Yoshikiri's value. The other one is a Magnus ability that can only be used once. Apparently, it increases the damage of your team's limit burst. For how long and for how much, we don't know. Of course, it's hyped to be incredible, but yeah, show me the numbers first. Did you think I forgot about Itachi? Well, it's because I did. So her Trustmaster reward is a throwing weapon that boosts attack. It has a chance to inflict disease, and what on earth did that do again? Oh, that's actually pretty valuable. Too bad most enemies are resistant to status ailments. Also, who uses a throwing weapon? Well, I guess Itachi here will, especially since it further boosts her ice damage, though yeah, that effect only applies to her. Her Super Trustmaster reward's much more valuable. It increases your unit's attack by 80%, boosts it further if they're dual wielding, and reduces the MP consumption of certain abilities. I have no idea if the last one's supposed to specify anything, though MP consumption reduction isn't as necessary as it might sound anyways. Well, having it is good, but don't let that take your eyes away from the attack boost. If, hypothetically, you had the best equipment in the game, dual wield will almost always deal greater damage than double hand ever will. But of course that might not be true for you, and you might prefer using double hand. But, newsflash, I'm not you, and I think the Super Trustmaster reward's pretty great. Would I use a Super Trustmaster reward Moogle on it? Probably not now, as my units don't need to be stronger at the moment. Still, you live your own life, so do as you will. Her active abilities look good. Hisami Art's Concentration boosts her attack, limit burst damage, and enables some other ability for 2 turns. What does it do? We don't know, but it might be a multicast. She has an ability that's called Quadruple Hisami Arts. This isn't exactly the quadruple cast you're familiar with, as it's the type that forces you to select different abilities instead of repeatedly casting the same one. Her Magnus ability can only be used once. It'll remove buffs from a single enemy, inflict a full break on all enemies, fully restores Itachi's HP and MP, and then she dips for a turn. Why? I don't know, but don't think that it's a bad thing. It can't be casted with the rest of her abilities though, so you have to sacrifice some chains for this ability. Finally, let's go over the bigger news. Starlight Elena is coming the week after Yoshikiri, so like I said, Neo Vision So is going to be delayed again. What a tragedy. I have less information on her. She's a hybrid damage dealer that apparently focuses on light and water boating strike attacks. Her 2 forms have different features. Her first one prefers to dual wield and deal big damage through chains. Her Brave Shift prefers to carry a single weapon, take on humans and demons, and serves as a finisher. She has, quote, high meta-defining damage every single turn cause she is that good. She's also, quote, about to blow your mind. So, thoughts? My free-to-play Neo Vision plan didn't exactly account for a supporter, so Yoshikiri is a huge surprise. However, he apparently focuses on ice and water damage, which I don't plan to use. At all. But supporters do tend to last longer than damage dealers, and depending on his numbers, he could have an incredible amount of longevity. Itachi's a damage dealer. I have Neo Vision Cloud. Her Break Dispel is interesting, but since I have Seeker or Freedom Bond, I think I can afford to skip her. And finally, Starlight Elena. So, she's a hybrid damage dealer. Those are great for trials, but they're not optimal for Dark Visions, especially since stages tend to be split between physical and magic damage. Well, I guess she'd be decent against Dark Bahamut though. Currently, I don't have any problems with trials, and I don't think I will in the future either. So unless her damage is truly meta-defining every single turn, she's a pretty easy skip for a free-to-play like me. But still, depending on the value of her Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward, that could easily change. Well, looks like I'll have to wait at least a week before finding out more. What do you think? Will these units greatly strengthen your team? Do you have the Lapis to spare to chase them? We still don't know if there's a safety net, which is a pretty important feature in my book. Well, wait and see, dream and hope.